I got so much motherfucking design on right now.
Break it down, bring it back, make it clap. I got 3 old thoughts, new block, where that damn bitches on my line, and you know.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from Group 11. Now we are going to present our material about developing students' critical thinking skills by task-based learning in chemistry experiment teaching. But before we come to the presentation session, let me introduce me and my friend. My name is Jamila Minkhatin Fajri, and I will be the first speaker.
My name is Arrachma Maharani, and I will be the second speaker.
And my name is Chanifatul Muniroh. I will be the last speaker.
Well, I think that's enough for the introduction. Let's come to the next session. The first material is introduction about critical thinking skills. It is generally accepted that critical thinking should be an important dimension of science education. Critical thinking should be not only educational choice, but rather an inseparable part of education. So many items focusing of the critical thinking are included. For example, they develop critical and creative thinking skills and challenge themselves to identity questions and draw evidence-based conclusions using scientific methods. In the science learning area, critical and creative thinking are embedded in the skills of passing questions, making predictions, speculating, solving problems through investigation, making evidence-based decisions, and analyzing and evaluating evidence. Definition of critical thinking skills. A good critical thinking includes both a skills dimension, critical thinking skills or CTS, and a disposition dimension, critical thinking disposition or CTD. CTS include interpretation, analysis, evaluation, inference, explanation, and self-regulation. CTD contain truth-seeking, inquisitiveness, maturity, analyticity, open-mindedness, systematicity, and self-confidence. Critical thinking is the human nature, but it's not natural for humans to think well. Being a critical thinking refers to obtain the critical thinking skills and the readiness, willingness, and inclination to apply those skills. CTS are essential to any educated individual, so it's particularly necessary that they could be used and developed by students. Most of the research have focused on the influence that teaching methods have on critical thinking. For example, in those study, the inquiry-based chemical experiment was used to develop pre-service teachers' critical thinking.
Task-based learning in chemistry experiment teaching. Problem-based learning and task-based learning are learner-centered teaching methods that promote critical thinking skills. Problem-based learning requires small group learning and focuses on cognitive development through problem solving. Task-based learning is suitable for chemistry experiment teaching as it allows for independent and proactive learning. Task-based learning is based on social constructivism theory, emphasizing collaboration and task-based interaction. Task-based learning fosters cooperation and team spirit among the students. Task-based learning has been tested in high school chemistry experiment teaching and has shown significant differences in critical thinking disposition. And then the study aims to examine the influence of task-based learning on students' critical thinking skill in high school. And then the methodology. First is research design. A pre-test and post-test experimental design was used with an experimental group taught using TBL or task-based learning and a control group taught using traditional methods. The experiment lasted 1 semester and the California Critical Thinking Skill Test or CCTST was used to collect data with assessment conducted at the beginning and the end of the semester to compare critical thinking skill levels and the hypothesis. And then the participant. The study included 119 students aged 17 to 19 in grade 3 at Eugene Middle School in China, with 5 to 9 students in the experimental group taught using task-based learning and 60 students in the control group taught using lecturing. And then the procedure. First, to ensure the objectivity and authentically, several treatments were conducted in the experiment, including an introduction to critical thinking, selecting students with similar learning levels, and using the same teacher and teaching content for both of the group. And second, in the control group, the teacher gave a lecture directly to the student about the chemistry experiment, while in the experimental group, the teacher used task-based learning to help students construct knowledge. And in the task-based learning teaching method, the teacher assigned a task and divided students into small groups with different roles. Each group member defined their role and task based on their abilities and interests. The students presented their reason, analysis, and experiment axioms before the experiment, which were evaluated and discussed by the teacher and the classmates. The student conducted the experiment under the teacher's guidance and supervision. Task-based learning required timely evaluation using self-evaluation, intra-group evaluation, inter-evaluation among the group, and teacher evaluation methods.
Further discussion is about instrument. The instrument used are in framework of CCTST is based on the APA Delphi Consensus Conceptualization of Critical Thinking 1990 and developed by Fajri 1994. It is a 34-item standardized multiple choice test and is aimed at college students and adults, but also suitable for advanced and gifted high school students. The skills of analysis, evaluation, and inference, deductive reasoning, and inductive reasoning are specifically targeted by the CCTST. The inductive and deductive skills overlap with the analysis, inference, and evaluation skills. Analysis, inference, and evaluation add up to the CCTST total score. Next, about data analysis. The data were analyzed using the SPSS 17.0 for Windows version. Independent sample t-test analyzed and paired sample t-test were employed to compare CCTST scores before and after TDL. The next is about result and discussion. Two methods were employed to compare the difference in the statistics. First method was used the independent sample t-test, and the second method was used the paired sample t-test. With the first method, results are obtained as in the following table. The overall mean score of the critical thinking skills in the experimental group was 10.05 plus minus 2.66 in the pretest and 10.58 plus minus 2.76 in the post-test, and score in the control group was 10.665 plus minus 2.67 in the pretest and 10.05 plus minus 2.80 in the post-test. Overall mean score of the post-test was higher than the pretest in the experimental group, while the score of the post-test was lower than the pretest in the control group. No significant difference was found in the overall score. Compared the subscale score in the two groups, the experimental group score was lower than the control group score in the pretest, but in the post-test, the control group score was lower than the experimental groups. There were no statistically significant difference in the subscales of the two groups. The relationship of three skill scores on the CCTST, no matter in pre or post test or in the two group, the sequence are evaluation more than analysis and analysis more than inference. With second method, results are obtained as in the following table. Despite the overall score curve in the post test from 10.05 to 10.58, Score in the post-test was not significantly different from those in the pre-test. The mean score of analysis in the experimental group is 3.49 in the pre-test and it is 3.96 in post-test, increasing by 0.47 point, with T equally 2.065 and P less than 0.05, which shows significant difference. The consequence indicated that TBL could develop student analysis skill in chemistry's experiment teaching. The other two subscales, evaluation and inference, have no statistically significance in difference in the two tests. This figure demonstrated the change of the critical thinking skill subscales in the experimental group in the pre and post test. And thus its conclusion. The study showed that TBL has real the advantage of fostering and studying critical thinking. The total score and the analysis score were higher than the control group. However, some limitation of the study must be acknowledged. The level of evaluation and inference has not changed much in the experiment group in the post-test. It could be explained by the fact that the time spent covered by the experiment and in class might have been too short to allow the effect of the new method to be integrated. Besides, the research and method on developing and cultivating students' critical thinking skills are still needed.
Well, that's all about the presentation. Thank you all for listening presentation today and thank you next attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.